This interview is brought to you by Wow Radio, indie media for the indie spirit. www.wowuradio.net. That's wow, the letter U, radio.net.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Crib Dem, right here on Indie News Live. And today, I'm sitting down with two indie authors. They go by the name of Xperience J and Warsan. And we're going to be talking about their book called Tomorrow's Seduction, Kiss of Death. Ladies, how you doing this evening?
Doing great.
Good. So, let's talk about this book. But first, before we get into the book, I'm very excited about the book because it has two things I'm not going to say that I love, but I'll name one, sex. We'll hold off on the other one as a surprise for the readers. But before we get started on the book, let's start with Xperience J. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing.
Well, I'm Xperience J. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia. I've been writing my whole life, like ever since I couldn't remember. Like I first picked up a pen around like maybe 6 or 7, and I just never put it down. Like it's been a part of everything that I've done since then. I'm just a creative spirit at heart, and that's just basically who I am.
Okay. Now, what about you, Warsan? Tell us a little bit about you.
Actually, this book here was my first project. My name comes from my daughter, who just passed away a few years back. And it means true news, wonderful news in Arabic. This book, this project, this was actually somewhat of a true story. You know, not the killing part, of course. Not
right.
Really out there slashing anybody, but you know, some of the parts of the book have transpired in high school. And so I've contacted Xperience J. She's my best friend. And I was telling her, you know, like, hey, you remember this? You remember that? And we just started writing it. Again, it's not all of the book.
Started writing again? So was there a part where you guys began it and then stopped? Is that what you mean?
Well, we started writing what transpired in high school, and we kind of took it from there.
Okay. It was more so like she came up with the idea while we were actually in high school, but I didn't know about it until maybe once we really got reconnected after the school. And she
told me about... How many years had passed after high school before you guys got reconnected?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to tell your ages. Sorry.
It was a few years
between.
It was maybe 3 or 4, maybe.
Okay.
But we didn't, like, she was just telling me, like, yeah, you remember this incident that happened in high school? And I started writing about it, but I switched it up, like, as if you were the person who did that. And I was like, well, what would make you do that? And she was like, well, I just thought it would be a good idea. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what you have, because, you know, she knows that I guess I'm known as the writer. So, you know, once she told me about it, I was like, oh, we could make this a real story. We could flip some stuff, but we can make this a real story. And, like, she sent me the first couple of pages, and we just went from there and then only finished the whole entire thing.
Wow.
So, that's how it kicked off.
So, I want to say this. For all of you potential indie authors out there, you just never know where a story's going to come from. You never know, or how it's going to start, or who you're going to end up writing a book with. That's what that sounds like to me.
Exactly.
Now let's get into the book, Tomorrow's Seduction, Kiss of Death. Now Tomorrow is actually one of the characters in the book. So let's start off with talking about some of the characters in the book and actually where this story actually takes place. So let's start off with Xperience J. Tell us a little bit about the characters, and then Warsan, tell us a little bit about where the story takes place.
Okay, well, the characters. I can start with Tomorrow and Mishan. The story, since everyone who has read it already thus far keeps asking us, like, is this you? And is this you? Like, they've seemed to, like, our friends have seemed to already pick out who's who based on our personalities. So, you know, basically, they're loosely based off of us, very loosely. based off of us. Tomorrow is a do-gooder, a goody two-shoes. She goes to church. She is perfect. That's on the outside. On the inside, she has her own little demons that she deals with. She's very secretive. She doesn't like people in her business, and when they get into her business, they don't last that long. I would say she is she is a person who she does not like to be crossed. She's a chameleon. She can change into whatever you need her to be, whenever, wherever. She can be it. So that's how she's crafty like that. So you never exactly know what you're getting with her. With Michonne, who is Tomorrow's best friend, she's kind of cutthroat, tell it like it is. She doesn't really have any cut cards when it comes to certain things. She comes from a background where her mother is not very prevalent in her life, is not around a lot. So she's basically had to raise herself. And, she has issues with her stepfather, who is basically a bum, who lays around all day. So she kind of stays away from home a lot of the time. The characters, they seem very different. Those two characters seem different, but they're really, one of a kind, so that's where they connected. In the outside world, people are like, how are these two girls, how did they become friends? But they don't know that Tomorrow has, edgy side. And
which most introverts do, because it sounds like Tomorrow's an introvert and Michonne's an extrovert. And opposites attract, not just relationship-wise, even with friendship.
Yeah,
so I can definitely understand that.
And who do we have? Oh, Legacy. Legacy is really, really annoying. She is the tag-along of the trio. They're like three best friends only. She doesn't really know that they're not really her friend. She kind of tags along.
Sounds like real life sometimes.
It is, and her problem is that she does not like Tomorrow because she feel like Michonne is her best friend and that Tomorrow took Michonne away from her. So she has an issue with Tomorrow because of that. She kind of feels like, okay, Tomorrow came flashing all her money and her wits and her perfect, life, and Michonne basically dropped her. That's how she feels. But she still tags along because she wants to have that sense of belonging. So throughout the book, you see that, like, she's trying to belong, but after a while, she just gets fed up and like, I got to take Tomorrow down. Those are the main characters. You have several the guy characters, which
I was just gonna ask you, are there any guys?
We're the men. Yeah. When there's women, there's men too.
Yes, there's Brandon, who is Michonne's boyfriend. He is, a regular dude. He's a regular dude. He has his little side hustle as well. But for the most part, he's really low key. Legacy's boyfriend is Kane, and they have a love-hate relationship. He doesn't really like her as much as she likes him, and that's evident because Tomorrow's actually sleeping with him.
Oh no! I didn't expect you to say that, but oh no!
Yeah, because and the reason, like I said, it goes back to Tomorrow being in charge, So she knows that Legacy doesn't like her, so she's like basically like, okay, I'll show you. And so she did this as a get back thing, but she found like, hold up, he actually kind of good in bed. I think I'm gonna stick with this for a little bit. Like, it was get back initially, but then she started to get her own pleasure out of doing it. So that's why she's still, dealing with him. And Kane, he's kind of that guy who, he was the chubby kid, didn't really get any attention, and then he started, puberty hit, and he started to look good. So he kind of still has that weirdness to him, but now he has this newfound, it's that newfound celebrity and confidence. So he's like, it's kind of getting to him a little bit. But to her, it's like, you're still a lame, So he kind of follows after Tomorrow like a puppy dog. And again, that goes back to Legacy, like, Dad, you're taking everybody from me. So that's where the beef really, comes. And then Chris is introduced a little bit later in the book, and that becomes Tomorrow's love interest, but I won't get into that too deep. because I want people to enjoy the story. So,
you gave us a nice depiction of all of the characters. You went into good detail because, oh my goodness, if you guys are listening right now, I know you want to read the book. I have the book, and I'm going to read it. So we're going to continue with the interview, but it's getting juicy. Now, Warsan, where does this story actually take place?
A lot of it it's Northern Virginia. You will find in the book that some parts take place in D.C., Southeast D.C., and I actually lived in Alexandria for a good part of my life. Again, it's strictly Northern Virginia, D.C. That's about it. They're a college student, so they actually go to a university.
So they're in their 20s, right?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. They're young adults. So there's a university that they go to out there, and it's mainly many people would say that I'm Michonne, you know. And of course, while I was writing, there was, my favorite drink is Mountain Dew, so she picks up a Mountain Dew in the book. So a lot of people's like, hey, is that you? And I'm like, well, no. It's just that, from writing, kind of,
you put yourself into your work.
Became right. Like, in a fantasy world, I was her. And
I mean, I totally understand that, and it's funny when you start writing characters, especially when they spawn from who you are, because you have to take little pieces of you to add to them to make it a character.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, so I totally get that.
And I'm still getting, are you Michonne? Are you Michonne? I'm like, in my own world, yes.
In my mind, I am.
Listen up, you guys, in the fantasy world, not in the real world.
Not in the real world.
Now, I have a question. So you told us that it takes place in VA and DC, and of course, actually in the first chapter, right in the beginning, the first sentence says, tomorrow race her black 750 through the live streets of DC. And it goes on, she's listening to go-go, passing nightclubs. So right then, if you're from the DMV area, you know exactly where this is and what's going on and things like that. So if you're familiar with our area, you'll definitely be able to get into the book. And reading certain parts of the book, I saw or read things that I was totally familiar with. And it just gives you that type of comfort, and you really get into the book when you're familiar with the setting. So I definitely love that part of it. Now, I have a question, and this may be kind of jumping out there. Tell the listeners just a little bit, don't give away too much, about the Kiss of Death serial killer. Because this person comes up in the book, and this is a bad, bad woman. That adds to what I said before that the book has that I love. I said sex, and it also has murder. Not that I'm trying to murder anybody or anything like that. Please don't take my words out of context, people. But she's all about sex and murder, the Kiss of Death serial killer. So I want each of you to give me your take on her. And let's start this time with Warsan, and then we'll go with Xperience J. So
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but, she's a bitch, and again, from the killing, and she enjoys what she does. She enjoys it. It's not something that just happens. It tickles her just to know she got away with it, and
so it's like her hobby.
Yeah, yes.
Her favorite pastime.
Anybody who reads the book, I've heard so many different things about her. People's like, they need to kick her, And I'm like, well, sometimes I find that she could be sweet. Sometimes you're going to find that, yes, you do need to get her, her butt whipped. Or, there are times where, she's a little off mentally. You're going to find more about that throughout the book. It's so many things that you could call her, but my point is about tomorrow, how can all of that be in one person? How can you be serial killer, smart? How can you mold all of that into one person and just, how can you be her and just walk the street without exploding? Everything a woman wants, she has. Everything.
Now, Xperience J, what is your take now? We heard what Warsan said. Now, what is your take on her?
The kiss of death is seduction. She oozes sexuality, sensuality, preys on a man's weakness for the flesh. You know what I mean? You know how a dude, when he sees like, a bad chick or whatever, automatically he not thinking like, dang, she could be crazy, she could be nothing. All he sees is, oh, that's a bad chick. That's it. Automatically,
right.
So she preys on that, like, I already know you're looking at me. So now, and it's to where she doesn't have to even do much. She doesn't have to wear the, skin tight things or whatever. She could, and she does sometimes, but it's like more so her personality. Like, as you read, you find that everybody is like, dang, what is it about her? It's something about her, and they can't explain it. You know what I mean? So she oozes that, and it's to where you want to know about her and what's going on, and before you know it, it's like a spider in a web. You caught up, and you like, oh dang, she just got, like, now she got you tied up to the bedpost, and she's about to kill you. She'll, and one thing she does, her MO, she's gonna have sex with you. She's gonna rock your world. First of all, it's not just gonna be no mediocre sex. She's gonna give you the best sex of your life. Wow. Then she's gonna kill you, and then she's gonna place a kiss on your forehead and leave. That's it.
Okay, so that's where the kiss of death comes in.
Right.
Okay. So that's what she does.
She lays it down real good.
Real good, to where you think, oh, we gotta do this again. Mm-hmm.
Right, then little do you know, it's never going to happen again.
It's never ever going to happen again.
And then she gives you a nice kiss of death. Okay.
Right.
That's a different type of woman there. I don't know anybody personally like that. I hope I never do. But you never know nowadays. It might be a friend just like tomorrow. And then reading this book, you might take a second look at her. You never know. I'm just saying. There's a couple of my friends I might be looking at it a little bit differently once I finish this book. This book is definitely erotic. It's very explicit. I would like to read a line, but what I'm going to have to do is invite you guys back to Adult Convo. We can get very raw and talk about some sections of this book.
Okay.
Now, this book is like 250 pages long. It's not a very, very long book, but it's a long book. So there's lots of chapters in this book. I would love for each one of you to tell me your favorite chapter and why, without giving away too much information. So this time, let's start off with Xperience J.
Okay. I like all of them, but I would say I can't even remember what specific chapter it is, but they go on vacation. Basically, shit starts to hit the fan. That's basically what happens. Everything comes out.
Do you mean the best friends and their boyfriends?
Yes, the best friends go on a vacation. Well, it's originally supposed to be just Tamara and Warsan and Brandon. And Brandon invites his friend Chris. That's when Chris is introduced into the story. Chris actually already knows Tamara. They already know each other. They've been friends, but they've kind of flirted with the idea of being more, but they always kind of been like, nah, I'm not going there with her, or I'm not going there with him, because they're also one of a kind. So they already know what kind of stuff each other is on, so they're just like, no, let's just be friends. But being in that predicament brings people, closer or whatever. So it's supposed to kind of be a surprise setup that Warsan did. Oh, excuse me, not that Warsan did, that Michonne did, so she's basically trying to get them together, which eventually works. But so it was supposed to be them. They invited Kane, but what they didn't know is that, because he doesn't drive, so he had to come with Legacy. So they open the door, and they're looking like, you're crazy. Did you really just bring her on this trip? I ain't have no ride. Y'all invited me. This is the only way I could come. So they basically have... Right. It was a package deal. It was one of those things. So they end up going through it because by this time she knows that Tomorrow has been sleeping with Kane, and she plans to bust her out. She also has done some other stuff, i.e. sneak into her house, and I won't go into everything she does. But
oh my God, she's a stalker.
Yes, so she's been really looking up everything Tomorrow has been doing, and she plans to reveal it on this trip.
Dang, so she's a pest and a stalker?
It gets real on this trip. So the trip, it has some more sensual moments, but that's when the action, for me, that's when the action gets live. Like, that's when it's like, oh snap, here we go. You know.
Okay, so we don't know what chapter this is, you guys, but when you hear Vacation, or you not here, but read Vacation, you know it's about to get real. Okay? All right. Now, Warsan, what is your favorite chapter of the book and why?
My favorite chapter of the book, I really don't remember the actual number, but it was a party that took place. Of course, when you go to a party in Virginia, it normally gets broken up by the police within minutes.
True.
Sean and Tomorrow, they got word that there was a party, Southeast DC, and of course, Legacy's like, wait a minute, how did you find out? And they're like, Kane told us. And she's like, well, he didn't say nothing to me, and I'm his girlfriend.
Uh-oh.
So, there's a little argument there. No, as you know, nobody wants Legacy around. She's annoying. So, she kind of tags along anyway. And at this party, there's a dispute between Brandon and Kane, Brandon being Michonne's boyfriend.
Right.
Kane, at some point, he was really, feeling Michonne. And, of course, Brandon, who he is, had to put him in check. You'll find out all the, details. But, of course, everybody leaves except for Tomorrow. And there was an argument that took place between Kane and Legacy, and he kind of had to let her know, like, work at a diner. You really ain't pulling, that much tips. Like, your tips aren't really feeding me, so you need to you're not.
Are you sure Legacy isn't the crazy one, the killer? Because they just kind of kicking her around. I want to kill somebody if I was her.
Like,
especially Kane.
There are people.
He got to go.
She needed to be broken down. And I really enjoyed that chapter because she had real tears after some of the stuff he told her about herself. Like, he really broke her down to the lowest. To the lowest. It made
poor Legacy. I feel for you, girl.
Exactly. Word for word what he said, but he really laid it on her. Like, look, I don't really need you. You're just a convenience, That would be my favorite chapter because you're going to find that sometimes you're going to laugh. There's some funny parts, and there are times when, stuff gets real. Mm-hmm. And that's
just like real life.
This has been another WOW Radio interview. Please contact info@wowuradio.net with any inquiries.